Glad to have you back. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has officially launched Nigeria's Preferential Trade Initiative, a key component of the African Continental Free Trade Area aimed at boosting the nation's export potential to $50 billion. Experts say the launch marks a pivotal moment in Nigeria's commitment to unlocking the vast potential of Nigeria's economy by facilitating a smoother trade and, of course, across the continent. What are the major components of this initiative? Let's get talking. I have the right person in the house. I introduced him earlier. He's the national coordinator, the Nigerian AFCFTA Coordination Office, Mr. Olusegun Awolowo. Good afternoon. It's good to have you in the studio live after some time.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice seeing you again.
Yes, and I'll say congratulations. This is big. This is really big. I think I'd like us to start with your commitment at this office. There is a lot of work, effective coordination of relevant stakeholders and all of that. How has it been so far?
Well, it's been challenging. It's been tough. But you have to understand that Nigeria has been in this all along.
Yes.
The Abuja Treaty in 1999 established the African Economic Community like the EU community. Okay. So it was established in Abuja in 1991. And then we've now gone 5 years ago, the main agreement was signed. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement was signed in Niamey in Niger 5 years ago. So from there, we had a rough start getting into it because the then president felt that we needed to understand it more.
Yeah.
And even though we were in the forefront of the negotiation of the treaty, we had to come back and establish an impact assessment body to go all around Nigeria and to look at it. So from there, one of the recommendations of that impact assessment committee was to establish what they call the National Action Committee on AFCFTA that to coordinate private and public sector in our engagements into going into the AFCFTA. So that was done. They worked on a strategy. Nigeria prepared a strategy of how we were going to approach after. Okay. Of course, the major concern and worry was anti-dumping.
Yes.
Because Nigerian businesses were afraid, that, we don't want, all goods to start coming down because that means goods coming duty-free. So you don't want goods to flood Nigeria duty-free. And then you look at it again, there's going to be loss of revenue for the customs service from goods coming from Africa. They don't pay duty. So you have to look at all that. But now, after the impact assessment, and the companies now realize that, look, we stand more to gain. We stand more to gain in Africa when we increase production, we increase productivity, and we get manufacturing on the right scale, and we industrialize. We stand more. We stand to gain more. And I always say, I'll tell them, I said, look, the question is not, is Nigeria ready for after? The question is, after ready for Nigeria. Because when Nigeria gets it, we stand to benefit the most. As one of the largest economy in that region, in Africa, we stand to benefit the most. So now we're going forward, and this is the momentum we have to push. All our manufacturers are with us. The industrialists are fully online with this, and they know that that's the new opportunity for them. Trading in Africa.
Sounds really good. But President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday now launched the preferential trade as part of the implementation. You'll make us understand especially the guarded trade initiative under the AFCFTA. Nigerians need to understand what this really means.
Yes, what it means is that we realize, this is agreement establishing the AFCFTA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're working on many protocols, 8 have been done now and adopted, and Nigeria has adopted them. And it's going to take a long time. It's really a lawyer's delight, this kind of agreement. Lawyers thrive on it, work on it. So we have protocol on trading goods. Prominent amongst that, is anti-dumping, is the anti-dumping rules. Then you have what you call the most favored nation treatment, meaning that any nation in Africa, the most favored nation is the next nation in Africa. So right now, if I'm taking goods to Cameroon, I'm the most favored nation as Nigeria. China cannot enjoy that benefit because it's an after thing. If Egypt is bringing goods to Nigeria and America wants to bring goods to Nigeria, they cannot benefit from that most favored nation thing. It's an African thing. So just for you to try and get it. Then you have the movement of removing all non-tariff barriers. And then you have the rules of origin, which is also very important. I'll get back to that later. And then trade remedies, of course, how we negotiate all that. So the next protocol is trading services, which is also huge. Then we have the protocol on rules and procedures and on the settlement of disputes. This is also huge because we must settle. There's going to be disputes. Of course. Yeah, we must settle it. And that's why the lawyers, the NBA is partnering with us. They're very interested in this. Like I said, it's a lawyer's delight. Lawyers tend to make more money from this kind of thing. So, and being the biggest bar association in Africa, we tend to make the most of this. Then the protocol on competition, of course, competitiveness has been done. There is a protocol on investment, how we attract investment now from Africa, into Africa. One of the most problematic things is that intra-African trade has been the lowest of all continental trades in the world. We don't trade with each other, which is really sad, and it's just next door. Next door. So we need to remove all those barriers. The protocol on intellectual property rights has also been adopted, and that's huge. That's going to be big. Remember, way back when I was in NEPC, I always told my exporters, register your patent. That's the sure way to build a brand. Brands like Louis Vuitton, Mercedes-Benz, they are registered and protected, so you can't copy it. Yeah. So you have to try and do that. In essence, when we want to build these brands up, register your patent. So we signed that, and of course we have the protocol on women and youth, and then the most important, the biggest, because for the future, is a protocol on digital trade. And digital trade is huge. Yeah, it's a $1 trillion economy, and Nigeria must just be part of it. So we're looking at that. Now, coming back to the guided trade initiative, when you look at all these protocols, GTI was like, look, let us test run trading amongst ourselves. Okay. Let's see it. So they launched the first one in October 2022. But unfortunately, Nigeria was not part of it. So immediately I got that, I said, no, this is the first thing we must be part of the GTI. We must trade. Now, the GTI says you trade outside your original trading blocks. So it's for us to trade outside ECOWAS, because we're already in ECOWAS anyway. So get into the other blocks. And that's why we said, okay, we want to get into it. It enhances our market access outside our regional blocks. And the idea is to check on all the trade procedures to streamline it, look at the custom procedures, what is stopping us from what is hindering the customs from accepting goods from that country and the other country accepting my own goods. What's all that? And because the ultimate goal of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is to have one custom union. Okay. Oh yes, so it's going to be free You just go into all these countries as you like. Movement of people and goods. That's what we're saying. So ultimately, Africa will not have visas, to go. Because that's the only way you can trade. And you don't have to be getting. So the Nigerian Customs Service is the designated competent authority. They call them DCAs. So they issue the certificate of origin.
Okay.
So what we did now was to get these companies together. Okay. We have now issued them a certificate of origin. So what that means is that with that certificate, they can go into all these countries that are also part now of the GTI. They can go into all these countries. All they have to show at the custom is, this is my certificate of origin. Because that certificate verifies that your goods are produced by you in your country. And when you even import raw materials and everything, it's from Africa. So it gets that preferential status for trade. So that's what it's about. And I'm so happy we joined it. I thank Mr. President for agreeing to launch. He was ably represented by the Secretary to the federal government, Senator Kume. And so we have launched it. The Secretary General of AFTA, Excellency Wankele Mene, was also here with us to see that, because all of them were waiting for Nigeria. In this kind of economic community, if Nigeria is not there, it looks funny. It's just like taking Germany out of the EU or France out of the EU. That's the equivalent.
But the issue of standard certification and all of that, doesn't it come in here for the exporters? Because I know all that you did your days at the NEPC, always trying to make sure this is done right, so that the issues of rejections we used to have at the time will not happen again.
Yes. Well, we were more now we're more better. The Standards Organization of Nigeria is working very well. NAFDAC as well, and NQRS. So all those bodies are right now. The focus was always, when I was in NEPC, I always said, look, our challenge is that we're not producing enough. We're not manufacturing enough. And we're not doing quality goods. So that's where we have to change. But the next generation has taken that up. And when you just go on Instagram, on social media, and see what Nigerian youths, what they're producing, what they're manufacturing, with all the challenges, of we have in the country. We all know challenges, but they're struggling and they're producing, and they're doing quality goods, and they're exporting it, all over the world. They're taking Nigerian goods all over the world. So it is even easier in Africa, that is next door. Really, our goods are going into Africa. Our goods have been going into Africa for years, in big numbers, But this is the first time we want it to be formal. We are not calling it legal. We don't call it illegal. But we want
formalize
exports. Let's have formal exports, so we can receive the numbers. Yeah, because that's what we never could get. We could never get the numbers and put it on our GDP. And put it on our foreign exchange, remit the foreign exchange back. So we have the dollars we are looking for everywhere. The problem with Nigeria is that our main source of foreign exchange has been oil. Yeah. So we need to diversify the economy, non-oil, and then get foreign exchange from it as well, formally. So our figures can change and improve.
I see 10 Nigerian companies are in this time around.
Yes.
10 of them.
Yes.
And they should be exporting to East, Central, and North Africa.
Yes, like I said, we're going outside our ECOWAS bloc.
Okay.
So we have 10 companies, and let me quickly take you through them. We have Leluk, Nigeria. She's exporting bags to Kenya. She represents all the female entrepreneurs. She's received the very first Nigeria after certificate of origin.
Wow.
And it gives me great pride that for Nigeria, it's a woman that is the first. So it's going down in history. She is the first to get that certificate of origin to export to Africa, where we were doing mostly concentrating on manufactured goods, not raw materials. Yeah, because that is really the way to show up your manufacturing here. So we have Secure ID. They're exporting smart cards to Cameroon. We have Dangote is exporting clinkers to Cameroon as well. Aviva Natural, they're exporting black soap with shea butter to Kenya. That's our Uri.
Yeah.
Kenya. Flour mills, they're doing native starch to Algeria. We have Craft Methods, they're exporting alcoholic bitters. That's our traditional bitters drink. I think they're going to Uganda. We have Ruchim exporting blended tea from Nigeria to Uganda as well. Castel Solutions exporting same and bank cards, to Uganda as well. We have Toleram Group exporting wrappers to Egypt, and then Hawaiian Industry Nigeria Limited, they're exporting water closet sanitary sets, to Kenya. So these are all manufactured products. So this is just to show you, we had to also go to the countries that have joined the GTI. That's why it looks like that. But in the future, that is our market. The whole of Africa is going to be a market. So what we need to do, produce more, manufacture more, and we have a market to go to.
So moving on, what should Nigerians, and of course, not just Nigerians now, because there's a lot of work to be done at the office as a national coordinator, what more should you be expecting now that government is really focused on non-oil space?
Yes. Well, we just have to, our strategy, we identified 8 pillars, the Nigeria After strategy. One, productive capacity, how to increase that. The productive capacity of Nigeria, very important. And that tells you everything about power, about everything in that scope to increase our capacity. Then we look at trade facilitation. You know, we must just facilitate trade. I have been one that has been calling for the Nigerian Customs Service that, yes, we need them as a revenue generation agency, but their main role is trade facilitation. And I'm so happy under this new leadership of the customs, we're getting more of trade facilitation from them. Nigeria must move from being an import-dependent economy to an export-dependent economy. It's only countries that export that survive. I keep using the quote from former Prime Minister, late Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, when he looked at the Indian economy in the 1960s, and he exclaimed, he said, wow, he said, India must export or perish. Meaning, if you are not exporting, nothing. We were exporting only crude oil. So that was where we depended on all our foreign exchange. But now we must expand that. So I'm so happy the Nigerian Customs Services, and in fact, many MDs in the space are really looking at exports. Sometimes when I sit back and look at them talking, I said, oh, these guys were just, they might have just stolen my speech when I was in NEPC, you know, calling for this. The Nigerian Ports Authority, you know, NKRS, NAFDAC, all of them, SON, all driving together for us to improve our goods and services so we can export. So I told you trade facilitation. We're also working on our trade policy because our trade policy must now align with the African Continental Trade Agreement. Must align with it. We must rework it. And the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Trade and Investment is working on that. We have to look at trade-related infrastructure. We have to look at trade finance as well, meaning that trade-related infrastructure like NEBSA, you know, the export processing zones, free trade processing zones all over Nigeria. We just must build them. Then trade finance, we need to empower the BOI more, Nexim Bank more, the Bank of Development, to focus on this so we can trade more. And of course, we have to get more trade information out, to let you know what countries you can sell to, what countries can buy from you, the capacity, and most work towards market integration, And then our main role at the Nigerian After Coordination Office is, of course, institutional coordination. That is with all the relevant government agencies. And we also look at our states. We're working in states, the subnationals. We're looking at the National Assembly for working on all these laws that will hamper trade. And most importantly, the private sector, to coordinate with them. That's why our main partners are NASIMA, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, other groups like the Bar Association, the Medical Association, because we are looking at also export of services.
Sure.
And also when you move into the juiciest part of that, the creativities, the creative economy, and that is just big. And Nigeria stands to gain so much from that.
Interesting conversation. I know we can, when you talk export or anything that has to do with AFCFTA, we can't be here. And I must thank you so much, Mr. Olusegun Awolowo. They're making sense of this and making us understand what this means. I'm sure our Nigerians would have a clearer picture of it. I've been speaking to the national coordinator of the Nigerian AFCFTA Coordination Office. So
let me just end with my quote that I always say, that everything Africa needs for Africa is in Africa.
Is in Africa. I remember at the IETF in South Africa that you made that so clear when you were making your speech. Thank you so much again. We wish you the best and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, coming up again, we'll look at